In exploring the architecture of identity, the first thing to realize is that the pattern of identity, the pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being, combines with the ecology, with the surrounding, to create a probability field. We construct our reality in relationship, in a relay, with the ecology through the lens of identity. And a pattern has a shape. If we take this shape, and we'll just if we take this shape, we can construct realities. We could construct a reality that looks like this. We could construct a reality that looks like this. We can construct all manner of realities that relate in some way to a triangle. If our pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being is like this, we have a probability field that relates to the shape of our identity. Now, with an identity like this, we cannot create a reality like this. The reality we are capable of generating is limited to the tools available within our identity. An artist does not just have a certain shape. The more tools they have available, the more tools that an artist has available, the more flexibility, the more freedom, the more power they have to generate the pictures, to generate the reality within a given context. And within a given context, within a given ecology, certain shapes are necessary in order to achieve a particular reality. And so the limitations of our identity templates, because these are templates. If you work with these shapes in Photoshop, you have an oblong shape, an elliptic, you have a square. The square can be shortened into a rectangle. You have a circle. The circle can be expanded, can be contracted. You have triangles. They can get bigger and smaller. You have lines. And through a combination of a wide vocabulary of shapes or templates, you can construct almost anything. It is a language. Identity templates are a language through which energy flows and that can house energy so as to construct a given reality. Now, in the maturation process of every human being, we have sympathy, antipathy, and synthesis. The child unconditionally accepts what is given to it, the language, the diet, the etiquette, the parents. The infant accepts the template that is given, the shape that is given. A language is a shape of sound. A diet is a shape of food. An attachment template a secure, an ambivalent, or an insecure attachment template, a political shape, a political narrative, a traumatic template. Is it a template of fight, of flight, or of freeze within the traumatic landscape? A chauvinistic template. Is it a template that values masculine and feminine, male and female, external and internal equally, upper and lower, light and dark equally? Or is it a template of bias where the higher is valued more than the lower? You get into absurdities then where people worship the flower but negate, neglect, poison the root. When you believe that the higher is better than the lower, then the flower becomes more valuable to the observer through that lens than the root. But as we all know, if you pamper a flower, you get nothing. If you pamper the root, it grows sustainably healthy flowers. So, in a chauvinistic paradigm where half of reality is valued higher, more than the other half, you get imbalance and asymmetry. It is a template that is received without question. Now, in a healthy maturation process, the templates that are given to us are rejected. The sympathy, the unquestioning acceptance, moves into antipathy, the reactive rejection of every adolescent. Now, the templates that are given to us by parents, by teachers, by the cult, the template that is given to us is always unbalanced, is always too simple, is always somewhat inefficient. And so it always creates pain, discomfort, outrage, hate, terror, trauma. The template is imperfect, as all systems are. That imperfection is magnified by helplessness. Every infant is completely dependent on the power structure, on the cult, to meet all of its human needs to survive. If a mother will not give food to an infant, it does not meet its most basic need to survive. To be secure in that survival, that requires the cooperation of the entire cult. The antipathy that emerges comes as the magnified faults, meaning when you're helpless, everything is bigger than it is when you're powerful. Meaning, if this image had complete control over my next breath, the image gets more and more of my attention because there is a dependent relationship on it. I need this image to give me my next breath. Now, in truth, there is a dependent relationship. These trees are producing oxygen that I and everyone else depends on. Now, when we abuse that balance, that symmetrical relationship of giving and receiving, we give carbon dioxide to trees and trees give us oxygen. When that circle is violated and becomes too asymmetrical, there's a backlash. We don't give as much, we take, and suddenly we're not receiving as much. And the nature of the dependency increases. With dependency comes powerlessness. With powerlessness comes fixation. We need our needs just as much as we ever did. We are now fixated. The more deprived we are of our needs, the more fixated we become on them. The more abundantly our needs are met, the less we care about them. A healthy, rich kid in a privileged society doesn't care about privilege, doesn't care about money, doesn't care about health. They're there in abundance. But a poor, sick kid in an unprivileged cult cares about those things a great deal. So the more our needs are deprived, the more we fixate upon them. And as an infant, we go through deprivation, and it is amplified. And the adolescent passes judgment on the flaws, the faults in the system that led to the deprivation of the infancy, that felt enormous, that felt timeless, that felt horrifically traumatic, because there was complete helplessness, because they were so big and the infant was so small. Now, those same things happen to a president, a billionaire owner of a company. The woman that you're in relationship with leaves the room for 3 hours and doesn't give you milk. Well, press a button, send in some milk, order it, go out. There's no helplessness, so there's no issue. But for an infant, 3 hours of starvation, of deprivation, with no certainty and no control of when that milk will return, that is an eternity. That is starvation. That is despair, right? And so the imperfections of the system are rejected. The shapes that were given are reactively thrown out by the adolescent. Now, the shapes that we were given have a capacity: the attachment template, the political template, the traumatic template, the chauvinistic template, the pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being that got us through the day. It may have been pulling hair, it may have been cutting ourselves, it may have been eating food, it may have been zoning out, it may have been telling lies, it may have been covering up our parents' lies. The templates that we were given got us through that environment. They helped us survive a very particular environment. They're like deformed tools: a hammer with a bent handle, a screwdriver with a dull bit. They're better than nothing. They helped us get through. But by the time we're an adolescent, we understand how messed up each of those shapes were, and we throw them out. Now, if we stop here, we don't have any tools at all. And for those of us that are arrested, that cease to mature at the adolescent stage, we have entered the rebellion state, which is dependent on an authority figure. You can't be the authority figure and rebel against authority, which is why an adolescent never has real authorship, real authority, because the adolescent state is one of criticizing and rebelling and throwing out the shapes, the asymmetries, the deformed templates that were given by the cult to the infant. You throw them out, though, you have nothing. The monetary system is fucked up, says the adolescent. Okay, you throw out money. It's still fucked up. You just can't buy anything because you don't have any money. The chauvinism within the family system is such that feminine things such as feelings are always humiliated, and sophisticated thoughts are always elevated. So you throw sophisticated thoughts out as part of the chauvinism. You're not going to have any sophisticated thoughts. You're tired of that part being elevated and the feminine side being humiliated. Well, now you have no sophisticated thoughts, right? The adolescent can reject, but it is only the adult and those willing to become an adult that can take the shape, that can evolve the identity, that can alter the template in an intelligent direction. Because the adult is the only one capable in the architecture of identity, of love. And love is the only chemical, the only compound that can evolve the template. To take a crude hammer and bend it out and balance it out and create a better hammer requires vision, attention to detail, skill, caring. It requires love, engagement. It requires intelligence, an idea of where life is going and how to move in that direction. Without love, there is no human evolution. Now, there's reptilian evolution. You don't need love to fight, flee, and freeze in a traumatic environment. You just need a reptilian brain. It will calculate in milliseconds. This is bigger than you, run. This is smaller than you, fight. We can't run or fight successfully, hide, freeze. Your reptilian brain will help you stay alive. But as a human being, not a reptile, we cannot evolve without love, without self-love. And that comes from the adult. That comes from the antithesis of the adolescent being followed by synthesis. And the adult synthesis consists of reviewing the life, reviewing the cult, reviewing the templates that have been given to us, and accepting the best parts. What do I mean by that? Well, Dad may have been a jerk, but he made really good pancakes. I'm not going to throw out pancakes just because Dad did this, this, and this. Mom may have been an addict, but she really knew how to take care of clothing and organize things, and all the cupboards and everything was really well organized. I'm going to accept pancakes, and I'm going to accept an organized house. I'm going to throw out the worst. I'm going to accept the best selectively. I'm going to throw out the worst: addiction, violence, lies, shaming the smallest one in the family system. I'm going to reject the worst of what was given to me. And I'm going to create some new shapes of my own. And the fuel for that mechanism is the witness and love. Now, the witness is the one that is distinct from the identity. The ego is the one that is the pattern. I think this. If you ask the ego what it is, I am this thought, I am this feeling. You hurt me, says the ego. What does that mean? You hurt my feelings. I am the feeling. I am the thought. I identify. I grasp onto the thought, the feeling. The pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing, and being is me, says the ego. That's me. So if you traumatize the pattern, shatter it, shake it, threaten it, you're traumatizing the ego. I am the insecure attachment template. I am the ambivalent attachment template. I am the pattern, says the ego. Now, the witness transcends the ego, transcends the pattern. The witness is the one who watches. And you need one part of you out of the cage, out of the shape, out of the form, to be able to evaluate the form. Because if I am this, and this is the problem with too much ego consciousness and too little witness consciousness, if I am the shape, then the ego reinforces itself always. I am this, therefore I need to do this because that's who I am, and that's why I am, and so I'm going to do this. I am a killer. The shape is killing. That's me. In order to maintain my shape, I've got to go kill something. And in killing something, I identify with that. I am the killer, and killers kill things, and so I've got to keep killing something. Otherwise, I have no identity. I lose cohesion, coherence. I don't know who I am. I thought I was the one who killed. Well, see, it's the witness that can say, aha. The witness is not identified with anything. The witness says, aha, there is a killer there. Is that the thing that I'd like to be? The ego has no choice. It identifies with the pattern. But the witness witnesses the pattern and does not identify it, does not go into the role within the paradigm of scripting, of drama. The ego is the role and is totally immersed in the role, and that gives vitality to life. Because if you just witness things from afar and say, somebody, a character on stage, is being murdered. There's no response from the witness. The witness is not attached. Someone is being murdered, says the witness. Oh, and somebody is murdering the one who's being murdered, says the witness. There's no attachment. And it's not a very lively entertainment if all of us is, quote, dissociated from the pattern in the witness state. I witness that this happened, and this happened, and this happened. Do you have any feelings about it? Well, I witnessed that there are some feelings about it, but I have no feelings about that. So it's a very distant reality. Whereas the ego is, I am those feelings. Don't you understand? I'm being killed. It's the end of the world. The whole world should stop this, that, the other, and nothing else but this. So my neighbor's making more money than me, and I'm in a capitalist cult, and my value is going down. I've got to compete. I've got to go up, says the ego. I've totally engaged. There's complete animation. There's complete immersion in the script. And the witness is, oh, there is a capitalist cult out there that measures people based on little digits in their bank account. How interesting. What a bizarre way of measuring value. Well, I'm still here, says the witness. I'm not dependent on the ego's shape in order to be here. I am the one that remains long after the shape has dissolved, long after the shape has changed. I am the eternal one. I am the one who watches the forming of the shape, the crystallization and calcification and full embodiment of the shape, the dissolution, the weakening of the shape, and the complete death of the shape. I am the one who watches, which means that I am bigger. I transcend the shape, says the self. The self is the witness. The ego is the identity. The self identified with the pattern. Now, with a balance of those two, you have a lively and exciting life in terms of going into the ego and you're in the role and you're exploring it and I am the pattern and this is what I'm going to do in this. And I'm free of it. I watch it. And there's flexibility to change it. And it is the adult that is capable of saying, you know, I understand why my infant is so terrified, given my mother. Let me give some extra nourishment to my inner child. Let me reparent that inner child. Let me give that child in meditation with love what it didn't have. And I completely understand and have space for the adolescent in me who's sick to death of the hypocrisy and the stupidity, the blind spots, the unfairness of it all, and wants to throw it all out. And let's give the adolescent the space to really throw all that out and be heard, be free and be accepted in its role, in its identity as an adolescent, as the rebel against the corrupt authority, against the author that it is not. The adolescent is not big enough to author. The adult is a synergy and witness of and lover of the entire self, and is in service to the child, to the adolescent, to the young adult, to all of the various identities. The adult is the servant or the king and queen, the one who is of service to the dominions, to the identities, the patterns of thinking, feeling, speaking, doing with their various levels of dis-ease and harmony. A pattern that is asymmetrical is in dis-ease. You can think of it as a wheel, right? You have great ease here, but through extreme pressure, through trauma, etc., the wheel can be elongated. And now it's spinning here at this really wide, as it spins around here, it's wobbling and causing all kinds of strain. And the adolescent rejects the system, throws it out, wants nothing to do with it, sulks, fumes, rages, plots revenge, plots the downfall of the system because they can't change the system. They're not an author. But the adult witnesses the gap between the asymmetry and the symmetry. And with love, with energy, moves the system back towards wholeness, heals the asymmetry, reaches a point of center. The adult lives in the center, the self lives in the center, and the self is lost, consumed. The deeper the trauma, the deeper the sleep, there becomes no witness. So we are lost in addiction. We become lost in the identity, in the ego. But through meditation, through exercise, through breath, through reflection, we find the center, we find the self, we find the adult, and the adult is the one that is capable of love, is capable of reshaping the technology, the shape of our identity, so as to increase the potency, the power of the reality that we can create. Before the emergence of the adult, and the adult is by no means guaranteed, a majority of the people today are not an adult most of the time. A majority of the people today produced as replicas within the cult are in the blind acceptance of what was given to them, or the reactive rebellion, or a mixture vacillating back and forth, but have never been initiated by an adult into adulthood, have never faced death and transcended the pattern of thinking, feeling, speaking, and doing and being that the I, the ego, identifies with, have never transcended and met the one who watches. The one who watches with love, with acceptance, with grace, with compassion. There's the critic, but that's not the adult. The critic is the adolescent. The critic watches and throws out. The adult watches and creates and heals and loves. Now, it takes time for an adult to evolve the systems that have been given it. It takes time. When our reality is built out of triangles, because that's the shape we were given, and we've never learned another shape, and unfortunately, the single most important science that a human being can learn is the science of identity. The science of evolving egoic shapes, which is the science of cult and culture. The template, the unquestioned, copied revolution, is the single most important science, discipline, subject that a human being can study. Because evolution and the intelligence continuum lies within that domain. Evolution, the direction towards complexity, the direction towards variety, the movement towards efficiency, the movement towards grace, the movement towards sustainability, the movement towards creativity, an ever-expanding possibility field, probability field, actuality field. Evolution, the protocol that life uses to go from less than the size of a pea to the entire known universe and counting and counting. The universe has gotten bigger and more complex every minute of every day for the last 25 billion years. And the universe is just getting started. Another trillion years of expansion, of variety generation, of synergy, of complexity, and of intelligence is on the horizon. You see, the universe is not running out of time. We are, the ego is, the shape here that we're in is running out of time. The planet is. Sometime in the next few 100 million years, next few billion years, this planet will transcend its shape. But life is not running out of time. Life has all the time in the world. But it is the adult, the synthesizing, synergizing witness that can rewrite some of the scripts that at certain depths and intensities of love can alter, can reheat the steel to 4,000 degrees and take some of the dents out of the pattern. The adult with intense energy, with intense emotion, can adjust the attachment template from insecure, avoidant back to secure, is capable of that. And in doing so, unlocking a possibility field, a probability field, an actual field that is far more beautiful, far more graceful, far more loving than a traumatized, insecure attachment template, where the attachment template is one of avoidance and the traumatic template is one of fight. And that's the driving operating system. Reptilian brain, insecure attachment template. The world that can be generated out of that template is very small relative to the world that can be generated out of a secure, healthy, post-traumatic growth template created by a loving adult. We must shape our reality with the tools available to us. We do shape our reality with the tools available to us. The tools available to us are the tools that we have been given, are the tools left after we have thrown many of them out, unless we find within ourselves an adult, a witness, one capable of observing and evolving those tools, those identities, towards more complex, sustainable, and symmetrical identities, flexible identities that are capable of creating the multidimensional, the graceful, the sustainable, the intelligent life that every human being in the history of humanity has longed for, and away from the chronic and unnecessary suffering that every human being in the history of humanity has wanted to push away. We honor the witness as the way out. We honor the self, the adult, the one who watches.